Welcome to Boots in Baltimore. I'm LeeAnn Blanchard. I'm sitting here with Guy Thomas, owner of Wilson House Bed and Breakfast.
Thank you very much for coming and visiting us and setting up this interview. It's quite interesting.
This is an absolutely beautiful home. I've only been in 2 rooms so far and I'm overwhelmed.
Thank you. We've been here 25 years. We bought this house semi-derelict. We've changed the paint. All of this beautiful wood you see was painted, sometimes with multiple coats. The stairs had about 15 coats of paint on it, including 2 Navy deck paint. I was originally a deck force sailor. I know what Navy deck paint looked like. And it was iron. And we broke through it and went down another couple, and there was another set of Navy deck paint on it, probably from World War II. This house was built about 1885, and in World War II it was cut up into 12 apartments. Interestingly enough, they had 12 kitchens here and only 7 bathrooms. They were willing to share the bathrooms, but not the kitchens, which is an interesting thing. We've added 4 bathrooms. We now have 13 bathrooms and 14 bedrooms.
It's absolutely stunningly restored. Tell us a little bit more about the history of the house. Why is it Wilson House?
We all remember William Jennings Bryan, who ran for the presidency in 1896, 1900, 1940, 1980. His law partner was the man who built this house.
Oh.
He was called the Orator of the Plains, and he was from Omaha, and he lived in Omaha. But at that time, in the 1880s, this was the 3rd largest city in the United States, and his main operating base for his law firm was here. The man that ran that law firm built this house. And how it was being built, he started about 1885. As it was being built, his father died. And the house next door, which is connected by a common wall, was being built on spec by the same builder. And he decided he wanted to buy that house as well and incorporate it. And we've had architectural experts come and classes of architects come and study how these 2 homes were made the last minute into one home. That's why it's so huge.
Yeah, it's grand.
It's almost 11,000 square feet. It's about 10,750. And how he did it was very clever. They added a staircase going up the back wall instead of going all the way up to the 4th floor. At the mid-landing each way you go up, and then there's a doorway into that. But because they didn't need a stairways over there, those homes are much wider than the homes that were originally going to be built. They're much bigger. So they're actually, our smallest home is 12 by 12. Having done a great deal of traveling, I know that's a pretty good sized bedroom in most places in the world, especially Europe and Japan. I spent a lot of time in Japan in my life as well. And so that's how the house came to be built, how it came to be so big. Then William Jennings Bryan decided in 1912 that he did not want to run for president. He was tired of having to beating against the wall. So he was supporting a man named Champ Clark. But he did, because of his authority and responsibility, he did have the convention 5 blocks away in the brand new 5th Regiment Armory that's over by the Opera. And that was the scene. And they were going to have it there for 5 days. And on the 5th day, of course, was going to be the vote. On the 3rd day, he gets a note. The bellboy comes running down with his note and says, "I've been told to give this to you and have you read it immediately, sir." And he said, "Okay," and this was on the convention floor. Opens it up and says, "Dear Willie, I've changed my mind. I'm going to run after all. TR, Teddy Roosevelt, your friend TR." And he goes, "Oh my God." They were planning, the man that Bryan has selected, he was going to market him as the Democrat edition of Teddy Roosevelt. They can't do that anymore. And so he calls a recess in the convention and says, tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. He said, "We'll be back here. We're going to have to think about this overnight." During that time, he has his minions run around and say, "Meet me at 2100 Mount Royal Terrace, right here." Come here. So where we're sitting right here, the thought leaders of the Democratic Party met, and he basically gave a speech that I actually read about in history, because I didn't realize I was ever going to own the house to do this. Basically, he said, "Hey guys, Champ Clark, the man I'm supporting, I still think he'd be the best president, but he's unelectable. He's going to be running against a sitting president and a very popular ex-president. He's not going to finish 2nd, he's going to finish 3rd. And they said, "Well, what do we do?" And he said, "If we go well to the left, we get somebody," I was getting about 38% of the vote. And against 2 people, that's a bad deal. But if we get in and lock that in, we can win this. He said, who do you suggest?" And he said, "Woodrow Wilson." Woodrow Wilson was just running for governor and got a good press from that time. He got himself elected saying he was going to solve crime in New Jersey. You know how that worked out. And Wilson was not really thought of as a great president, but he was very popular in a lot of ways at that time. And they said, well, he's not even here. Is he interested? And he said, well, I just exchanged emails and telegrams with emails of that day. And he said, yes, I've told him to sit still. We will keep him informed, but it would look unseemly if he showed up now.
Gotcha.
But for the next 3 days, now the 6th day, they brought the leaders of each of the state parties a few at a time and said, this is why we got to took, because at that time they were 1 vote away. Champ Clark was with like 3 more votes out of 1,500 from winning. Just, I think he was 6 votes away. If 3 people changed their votes, he was going to win. And by the time that William Jennings Bryan must have been very persuasive, because he eventually won in a landslide, but it was like the 80th ballot.
Oh, wow.
So there was no place for, they lost their lease. They were now 1.5 days past their lease. And by the time Wilson came in from New Jersey, he came in that night and got here, there's no place for him to speak. But that was a park out there. There was a freeway now.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lake and a park. So they gave an acceptance speech from this balcony. And the city calls this Wilson House. I didn't know that until several months after I bought it.
Well, so what did give you the idea to buy it and turn it into a B&B?
Well, my wife and I had just gotten married a year or so before. We had a place to live. My apartment was 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and it was just, it was a nice place over on Preston Street, right near the opera and the symphony. And I was big into both of those, and the train station. They're like 200 yards that way, 200 yards away, 150 yards that way. So I loved that place. I often didn't go anywhere on the weekend.
Yeah.
Drive my car. There was 20 restaurants within 4 blocks of it. I counted them one day out of curiosity. That's probably my main driving interest is capability. Is I'm always curious. I've asked questions my whole life, and not just hear myself talk when I know the answer. But anyway, we were looking, and I saw it. I answered an ad for a place down the street there, and I'm going to pre-look at it and see if I was interested. I'd bring her rather than waste her time. This house was obviously in serious need of renovation. It was the balcony was the porch here was in bad shape, and there was no sidewalk out front. It was under about 2 feet of dirt, and the yard was all weeds and brambles. As you can see, it's pretty good now. That's kind of been my hobby for the last 25 years, working out there. And finally, that's 25 years of work. And anyway, yeah, I had a really good garden there for a while, and then COVID came, and we were trapped in Peru during the summer.
Oh,
and the vines
just overtook everything.
Everything, and they put seeds down, and I'm still pulling out seeds from those weeds that were obliterated in 2019, but they came back in force. So that's why it's called Wilson House, is because he gave his acceptance speech from this balcony. And where we're sitting right here, they had 2 punch bowls. They had a receiving room up in the formal dining room upstairs, which we now, it's our suite. It was an eat-in kitchen, but they had a punch bowl here for the Presbyterians and a punch bowl over there for the Whiskey Payans. Whenever there was 4 of us Whiskey Payans, the Baptists where I grew up said, well, there was 4 of us, they always meant Jesus. The Catholics always said, where there was 4 of us, there's always the left. They meant, the Catholics, it was Jack Daniels, and the Episcopalians was Johnny Water Black.
Oh, jeez.
That's not my original story. I didn't make that up, but I've heard that story my whole life.
Oh, goodness.
So there we are, and that's how this came to be called Wilson House. We didn't realize that, but we were looking for a new place, and we wanted 3 bedrooms. I had a small 4-unit apartment building, and I said, if we can find a place that meets our needs, and we can also have something help with because I was living in that house over on Preston Street. I was making $400 a month.
Yeah.
Rent-free. I
Yep.
mean, I was paying all my utilities and everything.
So
and
you were looking for an investment.
Yes, exactly. And at that point, and we found this, and we came through it. And my wife, we've seen some places that were really terrible. And that's one of the reasons she just, no, it's way too
Too much work.
Keep to it. Well, yeah, these places were terrible. So I looked at this and we came through it, and they had said it was 6,500 square feet or 7,500 square feet and 3 floors, but there's 5 floors in this house. So if you count all 5 floors, I asked them about that at the closing, and they said, because we used to tell people how big it was, oh yeah, fine, thank you, goodbye. And I said, come think of it, I might have done the same thing. We walked through the house, and I was stunned how big it was, and it was gorgeous, but the bones were there, and all this, the wood was here still, and that's a lot of work. But we were standing outside after we'd been in here about an hour and 15 minutes, and I said, well, what do you think, honey? And she said, you want a bed and breakfast? I want a child care center. You can put both in that building.
Yeah,
She
it's
doesn't know
big.
if she said that, but she did. And I said, yeah, that's true, but the workload of those two would kill you.
True.
That is the perfect place for a bed and breakfast, because it's less than a mile to the train station. The light rail is 300 yards away.
Perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect. And there's no restaurants like here, but there are half a dozen within 5 minutes. You go 5 minutes away and you're on Hampden with all the restaurants there. Literally, it's just right up the freeway. You go down and you're there. It's a perfect decision. But yet we're still in this little cul-de-sac right here. It's really neat.
It's quiet.
Yes.
It's in the middle of the city, but it feels like an oasis back here.
The previous owner put in double pane glass, killed the sound. And then we put up in a couple of bedrooms, for one reason or another, we put triple pane glass. And it's fascinating how you walk outside and you hear the roar of the city, the freeway going by. You close that door and it's gone.
Wow. I love it. So, bed and breakfast. I don't think everyone has stayed at a bed and breakfast, but what makes it different than a hotel and better than a hotel?
Oh, well, for one thing, it's the personal touch. You got your bed and breakfast is owner occupied. People say, "You live here?" Absolutely. And I grew up in Texas. My father and my mother both, one from North and one from South Texas, said, always, every time, treat everybody as if you wanted to be treated. And I have done a huge amount of traveling, and I know what I like and don't like, and so we try to make everybody feel. I've told my wife, consider everybody here that comes in that door to be your favorite aunt or uncle, and they're rich, and you want to make sure that you make a good impression on them.
Yes.
So if you think about that, and she said, I get it. She's very, very smart, and she said, I get that. Okay, and so that's what we try to do. We try to make everybody feel like a special member of your family. We literally work just exactly on that.
Yeah, it feels that way because you're walking into someone's home.
Exactly.
And it's got so much more character than kind of a faceless chain hotel.
And I've been a collector my whole life. I needed a house this big. I know you see the military people up there on the ledge, and that I have my military decorations over here. I had a really interesting career in the Navy. Also flew with the Air Force and served 9 years with the Coast Guard and a couple of years with DEA and Customs and Border Patrol, teaching them how to use surveillance systems. I was a surveillance person. So.
Well, it's clear that you are a collector because every surface has something interesting to look at.
Yeah. I've got a coin collection over there that is, I don't know, it's probably 10 pounds of coins. The tables are totally loaded with coins I picked up all over the world. But you haven't even seen my collection in China.
Nope, not yet.
Yeah.
In a minute. So the other thing is and breakfast.
And my wife's a superb cook. I married my wife because she was drop dead beautiful.
And being a great cook was a bonus?
Didn't even know she was a good. She's Peruvian, and I knew she fixed a couple of Peruvian meals for me. I'm a pretty good cook. I'm better than average for sure. I came home and it was a spectacular meal. And I stupidly, ignorantly, unthinkingly said, "Who did this?" Come to find out, she's Peruvian, and every Peruvian man believes the two best cooks in the world are his wife and his mother. And every woman in Peru works very hard to prove his husband's right. And if you ever get invited to a Peruvian home or go to a Peruvian restaurant, go. It's a special deal. In fact, in last year, they named the top 50 restaurants in the world. Peru has always had one or two. Always, since I've been, and that's the last 10 years or so. This last year, they had number 1, number 7, number 23, and number 46, or number 47. 4 out of the best restaurants in the world are in Lima, Peru. There's more good restaurants in Lima, Peru than there is south of the border, from Mexico to Argentina.
Wow.
And
it's lunchtime. You're giving me ideas.
Yeah.
So
there's a good little Peruvian restaurant not that far from here.
You would know.
Yeah.
And that's another reason to go to a bed and breakfast, is there is someone there who knows the neighborhood, knows the layout, knows what to do, knows what's seasonal.
Absolutely, and we have we always send people to go to tell us what you like. We're history buffs. We know where all the museums are. I got married to her because we'd go to a museum and she would sit there and read everything, and just like I do. And she'd ask smart questions. She's very intelligent. I knew when I married her she was very smart. Come to find out, she's even smarter than I thought. She's probably brilliant. And it's just, I didn't realize how well educated she was. And we now spent a good bit of time in Peru, and we've been married, I don't know, 12, 15 years, something like that. And we went by San Marcos University, the oldest university in the Western Hemisphere, older than Harvard by about 75 years. And I said, oh, that's a famous university there. She said, yes, I know, I went there. It'd be like meeting getting married to your girlfriend, your wife for 30 years or 25 years or something like that. Never say, oh yeah, I went to Harvard. Yeah, didn't you? But it was kind of a surprise. And I was not surprised. She had to drop out her senior year, halfway through her senior year, because the economy collapsed. Mm-hmm. But she didn't have a degree. She's very, very. I knew that she was very well educated. We'd start talking about history. She knew all about both European and South American and world history.
Well, I love that you have found this common interest and that you run the enterprise together, and that it's, again, just this absolutely stunning, beautiful, interesting, fascinating, historical home.
She ran it by herself while I traveled all over the world. As I mentioned, I've invented a satellite that tracked ships, and between 2004, when we first got it, in 2012, I was being asked to speak different places about a month. Yeah. But after I retired from the government, it was 4 or 5 times a month. 2017, I logged 340,000 miles. In 8 years, I kept record of, I logged 2.2 million miles traveling all over the world, talking about how to use my system.
Wow. Well.
And she kept the ball rolling. I mean, I came in and wrote the checks, paid the bills.
That's so crazy. Well, so how many rooms do you have? And I noticed that there's some unique features with the kitchens. Yes. So how does it work?
Well, we actually added 2 more kitchens to this house. There was a kitchen that was already there, but it was in terrible shape, and we literally gutted it. We took it was plaster. We took down and put sheetrock up and put a brand new kitchen in. That was in the mother's apartment. And then up on the 4th floor, 1, 2, depending upon how you count it, there was 1 long one that you could count as 2. And we put that long one, it's a galley kitchen, it's narrow, long and narrow. And then it's got a dining room, and then a living room on one side, and then you go out the door, and you go into a bathroom, and then you're on the other side of the house at the top floor, because it goes like this, is a nice little bedroom. And both of those are rented out long term right now. Matter of fact, the man that has rented out the one on this floor, the one that we totally gutted, has been working on the James Webb for years. And he actually helped design the downlink of the main instrument, the MIRI, mid-range information instrument, infrared instrument. And he's still here, and he's planning to be here forever. Which is an interesting guy.
So they are available for long-term rental,
yep.
And it's nice because you have your own kitchen.
In those 2, but then we have our other kitchen. That, my wife, after I discovered she can cook, she said, "You're a messy cook." So she threw me out of my own kitchen. And, I keep trying to help her, but she said, "No, you're in the way. You bother me, boy." But and then we've had several people that have rented. To answer your question, we have 14 bedrooms in this house. If you count the 2 bedrooms in that place and the 2 bedrooms on the 4th floor. And we have 8 at any one time available, 8 bedrooms. So it's a pretty good sized place.
Wow.
And we have the formal dining room we've now made into our bedroom, sitting area, and a bathroom. And that's where 2 of them get. We've added, I said 4. I think we've added actually 4 immediately, and 2 more. We've added 6 bathrooms to this house, which is a fairly significant expense. We also, when we got in and looked downstairs, I couldn't believe it was still there. The input from into the house was modern, but once inside this house, the electric system was knob and tube, Mark I, Mod 0. And we've discovered that this house was built before electricity,
Yeah.
and they added electricity afterwards. These chandeliers that you see right here were originally gas chandeliers.
Oh, wow.
And have been
Refitted,
Yeah,
yeah.
refitted. Then we moved into another room because somebody stole a bunch of the hanging
Pendants.
chandeliers and
Yeah.
the pieces.
Little pendant pieces.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yes, the challenges of a historical home and
It's-
things you don't know until you
That's right.
until you get there.
That's right. Yeah, this home is it's history, and
Yeah.
we've really enjoyed living. You asked early on what are the things I like about this. All the different people you meet some fascinating people here. We've had something like 1,500 people here, maybe a little more. Last time I checked, it was 1,400. That was last year. And some of them are just phenomenally interesting people.
Well, I think bed and breakfast kind of attract that type where
Yeah.
you're looking for something a little bit different. You're looking for an experience, not just a place to sleep, and long-term rentals, larger gatherings where you have room, like you have a sitting
Oh, yeah.
area.
We've had family weddings, the wedding party will stay here. That's happened several times. We had one of the more interesting people. We had two. One of which, in the Hubble Space Telescope, the Space Institute is less than a mile. It's a 15-20-minute walk from here.
Oh, wow.
Other Hopkins. And this fellow was here, and I've been working in British space. And I knew a lot of people in British at that time. We were on a project there with the British Space Institute. And he knew everybody I knew. He knew what their subject was in grad school. And finally, he was an elderly gentleman. And I finally said to him, "You must be very senior in the astronomy business, the space business of England." And he said, "Well, they do call me the Royal Astronomer." I said, "You mean like Greenwich?" And he said, "That's where it is." I said, "I walked by your door. I didn't know you." And he said, "Yeah, I guess I'm back." You're right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the guy that built the Mall of the Americas,
Mhm.
he stayed here, and
Wow.
we were having a fifth day, and he was visiting his daughter who was at Hopkins at the time. The fifth day, he just casually mentioned something about his airplane, and I said I flew, and he said, "Well, I flew too. I flew in the Navy and the Air Force." And he said, "Well, I flew in the Air Force, I flew tankers. And I still fly occasionally." And I said, "Well, I know." And he goes, "Yeah, I was bringing my new Starfighter jet." And I said, "You got a Starfighter?" "Yeah, but it only seats 2 people. I've got this one that seats 6, and this one that seats 20. You're talking $100 million worth of airplane. I'm not charging you enough, obviously." Yeah. So we had this guy that made a reservation at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and showed up at 5, and get to talking to him, and he's a fascinating fellow. And come to find out, he's the guy that introduced Jennifer Lopez to Ben Affleck. And just everything.
So clearly very connected in that
Very,
scene.
oh, yeah. He's got an Emmy, an Oscar.
Oh, wow.
He's had several Emmys and an Oscar. He's now retired in New York City. We used to have the best pizza place that I've ever been to 4 months later. It recently closed. But I told him it was
Joe
the best.
Squared?
Joe Squared. I told him that it was the best pizza I'd ever had. And he said, "That's going to be saying something, because my friends in L.A., I grew up in New York, my friends in L.A. thought they had the best pizza place. I know New York is the best." And I said, "Well, you have to tell them what to think." And he's sitting there, Joe Squared, and he said, "You're right, this is the best pizza I've ever had." So it's a great place. It's been a lot of fun.
Love it. All right. Well, so how can people find out more or book a room or?
Well, it's very easy. It's www.wilson-house.net. Wilson-house.net. That's us.
And you've got pictures online so people can see
Oh
the
yeah,
rooms.
yeah. And we're a lot of pictures on Yelp. If you go to Yelp, they've got some machine that just lets you go through. We haven't put that many, 20 or 30, something like that. We plan to put a lot more.
Yeah.
We've been opened up this August. It'll be 20 years. 3 weeks from now.
Wow. Well, I highly recommend it. This is a treasure in the middle of everything.
Yeah. We're happy with it. We're very happy. I hope that we get another 20 years, but I kind of doubt it. I would have to be over 80. I'd have to be over 100 years old at that point. It's interesting, but it's a lot of fun. Just the people you meet.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is LeeAnn Blanchard with Boots in Baltimore. Stay tuned and definitely check out Wilson House. It's perfect for a weekend getaway. It's perfect for out-of-town guests, and it's an experience that you and they will never forget.